Chapter 3302. But Yiqing Luo had just released Shiju. A roar came from Shiju's mouth. Soon after, he once again ruthlessly smashed his head against the ground. Shiju. No. Yiqing Luo pounced towards Shiju once again as she hugged its head tightly. Roar. Howl howl. Shiju struggled crazily as it was filled with pain and growls, making Yiqing Luo's heart twitch when she heard it. She could not let go of Shiju. Once it was released, Shiju would go crazy. What were those two things on its head? Because it was something that came out of the flesh. Was that why Shiju was in so much pain? Was he trying to knock the two hard objects back by slamming into the ground? Yiqing Luo hugged Shiju's head tightly as she turned around to look at Zhou Xian, who had already wiped the blood stains off his lips. Zhou Xian, are you all right? Zhou Xian was injured to protect her. She didn't even have a way to support Zhou Xian. I'm fine. As though he saw the anxiety in Yiqing Luo's heart, Zhou Xian slowly shook his head. Don't bother about me. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips. Your injury, you can't fight anymore. Zhou Xian didn't reply. He just stood in front of her, unwavering, with no intention of leaving. What a lovely couple. Wind Chimes, who had succeeded in her ambush, smiled coldly at the two of them. Earlier, Yiqing Luo's entire heart was placed on Shiju. That was the best chance to get rid of Yiqing Luo. Without any hesitation, she ordered the other corpse puppets to stop Zhou Xian. Following that, he unleashed all the energy in his body towards Yiqing Luo's direction, gathering it into one palm. But he didn't expect. Zhou Xian actually broke through the corpse puppet's obstruction and helped Yiqing Luo to receive this palm strike. But that didn't matter. If it hit Zhou Xian, it would be the same. No matter how strong Zhou Xian was. Receiving a palm strike that she had poured all of her strength into, she would also suffer from severe internal injuries. He no longer had the ability to protect Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo would definitely die. Wind Chime's eyes were filled with madness, and her killing intent was clear. I'll fulfill your wish. I'll let you be a couple in hell. Wind Chimes's hoarse and sharp laughter was extremely ear-piercing. Number 1, the corpse puppet said. That's the palace lord's partner. We can't touch him. He pointed at Zhou Xian. Feng Ling's eyes turned sharp as she looked at the undead corpse puppet. That thing's awakening time has been brought forward. If we continue to delay, we will all be finished. Now there is only one way, and that is to join forces and kill both of them. Qing Luo, after a pause, her lips curled into a sneer. At that time, if the palace master blames us, we can just tell him the truth, right? The corpse puppets exchanged looks. In the entire forbidden area, the unique and mysterious airflow rippling in the air was becoming more and more obvious. Zhu Ling Qinju. In the end, they chose to listen to Wind Chimes. In front of him were 5 new undead puppets and Wind Chimes. The Ting Qing Luo. Yeldyong Shiju. Luiwu. Ju Qing. Tian Qing Tian Qing Ju. Luo Qing Shiju Luo Yi Shiju was Yi as Ju and Shui, was Yi and Luo. But Yiqing Luo and the rest were obviously at a disadvantage. Time dragged on. Even if Qi Yan and Qi Qi were sacred beasts, she wouldn't be able to afford it. Thinking of this, Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased tightly. Chapter 3303. Haha. Yiqing Luo, based on your ability, it's not difficult for you to escape. Looking at Yiqing Luo's cold expression and tightly knitted brows, Feng Ling couldn't help but laugh out loud. Her eyes were filled with ridicule towards Yiqing Luo. What a pity. Our great Madame D is kind-hearted and would never do something like abandoning her companions and leaving alone. She laughed softly as if she was praising her, but in actual fact it was ridiculing her. Just like earlier, you could obviously avoid my palm strike. But you were worried that once you avoided it, my palm strike would hit that little war pet of yours. I didn't expect you to have a lover to block that palm strike for you. Feng Ling looked at Zhou Xian in disdain. Lord Castle Lord, how are you going to protect that scoundrel now? Do you think she'll be able to block one more attack? As she spoke, Feng Ling covered her mouth and giggled. Extremely carefree laughter. As if she wanted to vent out all the humiliation she had suffered during this period of time. Yiqing Luo, since you can't abandon your companions, then die here with them. Feng Ling's last sentence was abruptly raised in volume. At the same time, 50 over heaven-reaching beasts roared in unison. Immediately, they attacked Yiqing Luo's direction at the same time. Rumble. Suddenly the entire ground started to shake violently. The sky also turned dark. A bolt of lightning seemed to split open a hole in the sky. It opened its bloody mouth. The surrounding air was filled with fluctuations and instantly turned into raging waves, surging and crashing against everything in the surroundings. Roar! The heaven-reaching beast suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream. Lightning and thunder streaked across the horizon and struck the body of the heaven-reaching beast. Bolts of lightning continued to fall. Not long after, the surrounding was filled with a burnt smell of barbecued meat. The heaven-reaching beast's screams became more and more tragic. The sudden change made Feng Ling's expression change drastically. Upon seeing this, several undead corpse puppets quickly evaded the falling lightning bolts. What's going on? How can the weather change in this place? Feng Ling screamed at the top of her lungs. Damn it! That scoundrel was actually so lucky. He even had the help of heavenly thunder. Wasn't this forbidden land isolated from the rest of the world? How could the weather change? How could there be lightning? The undead puppets raised their heads and looked at the pitch-black sky. The sky was filled with rolling dark clouds. It was a dark and oppressive scene. Roar, roar, roar. The three-eyed heavenly beasts that had been struck by the lightning bolts were all curled up on the ground. Head buried in the ground. His claws hugged his head. He had a pious look on his face. This scene made Feng Ling so angry that her face contorted. All of you stand up. Why are all of you lying on the ground? Wasn't it just a few bolts of lightning? That's enough to scare you. But no matter how wind chimes shouted, the remaining 30 or so heaven-reaching beasts that hadn't been struck were still holding their heads and shivering in fear. Bang! Suddenly there was a loud crash. A bolt of heavenly thunder struck directly on Feng Ling. Feng Ling's entire body was jolted by the electric current. Half of her black robe was charred by the lightning, leaving only a few pieces of cloth hanging on her body. Seeing this, the other dead puppets quickly retreated. They stood in a relatively safe position. What a powerful aura! Chapter 3304. Because of this battle, the surrounding lush trees had all fallen to the ground, revealing that piece of dark and oppressive sky. Yiqing Luo could also see it clearly. Between the surging dark clouds, there seemed to be something in it, stirring up the clouds and rain. But no matter how Yiqing Luo looked, she couldn't see clearly what was in it. What the hell is this lightning? Feng Ling cursed angrily and climbed up from the ground. She had just opened her mouth to curse. Feng Ling heard a crack sound, the sound of something cracking. Feng Ling was stunned. This cracking sound was too close. So close, as if she was the one who had cracked. Herself. Cracked? This thought made Feng Ling's pupils suddenly widen. Almost subconsciously she took out a dagger from her space pocket. She raised the blade. A short scream of pain came from Feng Ling's mouth. She threw the dagger out and held her face with both hands. No. Can't do this. Can't. My face, my face. Crack, crack. There was another crisp cracking sound. Feng Ling held her head and half squatted on the ground. Just now she clearly saw her horrifying face reflected on the blade of the knife. Her face was struck by the lightning and turned black. The most horrifying thing was the position from her cheek to her chin. It was cracked into two halves. Moreover, it was not like before when she was a test subject in the secluded palace. Even if her limbs were broken, they could still be reattached. The crack on her chin could not be closed. She couldn't feel any pain. There was no blood in her body. She could only hear the sound of her face cracking. Feng Ling almost collapsed. Even though her face had been completely destroyed, she was still able to maintain her composure. But it didn't mean that she could accept her face being ruined, and it was that kind of shocking destruction. Feng Ling's look just now. Not only those 5 corpse puppets saw it. Yiqing Luo also saw it clearly. When the 5 corpse puppets saw this situation, they were already afraid of the rolling dark clouds in the sky and the lightning that was about to strike again. Each of them stared at the sky very vigilantly. How could they care about Feng Ling's life or death? Yiqing Luo retracted her vision. She lowered her eyes and looked at Shiju in her arms. Not knowing when Shiju stopped struggling, the huge leopard raised its head and stared blankly at the sky. Yiqing Luo took the opportunity to turn Shiju into its pet form as she hugged it in her arms and immediately stood up as she hooked Zhu Wu Xian's arm. Let's leave first. Whether that bolt of lightning was friend or foe, no one knew. could even deal with the new undead puppets. She and the two sacred beasts would not have a good time either. Moreover, Shiju's condition had to be resolved. Zhou Xian was also seriously injured. We can't delay any longer. Roar. In his embrace, Shiju's mouth emitted a short cry. It struggled fiercely, and while Yiqing Luo was supporting Zhou Wuxian to sit on Chi-Chi's back, it rolled out from Yiqing Luo's embrace. Yiqing Luo was shocked as her expression changed greatly. Shiju. She supported Zhou Wuxian and immediately rushed towards the direction of Shiju. The tiny Shiju rolled on the ground a few times. Then it raised its head and looked at the sky in a daze. It didn't move at all, just staring at the sky. And the place where Shiju rolled was coincidentally near where Fengling was hugging her head. Fengling only needed to stretch out her hand and she would be able to grab it. And it was because of this distance. Chapter 3305. Fengling caught a glimpse of a black little thing from the corner of her eyes. She held her split face and looked up. She saw the battle pet which Yiqing Luo doted on was lying by her feet in a daze. That little thing was in the form of a pet the size of a palm and looked harmless. Moreover, the little thing stared at the sky without blinking, totally unaware of its own situation. Seeing Yiqing Luo's worried face, rushing over at an extremely fast speed, Fengling's eyes flashed a trace of coldness. She became like this all because of Yiqing Luo. He would not be well. Yiqing Luo would not be well either. Didn't Yiqing Luo love this little thing? She would kill this little thing right in front of Yiqing Luo. Let Yiqing Luo have a taste of heartache. Fengling's murderous intent was revealed. Her long legs stretched out and her palm rushed towards Shiju. Fengling. Don't you dare. Yiqing Luo's expression changed greatly. Her slender brows knitted into a ball as she gritted her teeth and shouted in a low voice. Shiju had no reaction towards Fengling's attack. Yiqing Luo was anxious. The glower flame fan in her hand quickly opened up and struck a wind blade towards Fengling. Yiqing Luo became more anxious. Fengling became more complacent. As a result, she neglected just as she rushed towards Shiju. Shiju's shiny black little body, a ray of green light, shrouded it completely. Bam! In front of her the green light flickered. Fengling's body like a kite with a broken string flew out. Following that she saw a green shadow heavily hit Fengling's body that flew out, lying on the ground. Gotcha! It was another crisp breaking sound. Fengling's body was directly cut into two. Fengling's eyes widened, both hands touched her waist. When she touched the bottom it was empty. She let out a short scream in panic. What was this? What was this thing? Why could it break her body which had been transformed into a corpse puppet? Fengling struggled to lift her body, looked down at the empty direction below her. Immediately, she was completely stunned. That was a huge tail. A green tail. That tail was between her upper body and lower body. It was this tail that broke her body. Ong. A deep voice pierced through the air and exploded in his mind. From Yiqing Luo's angle, they could clearly see the scene in front of him. It was a body that came down from the dark clouds and circled around. Azure light flickered and azure dragon's scales glittered brightly. This was the azure dragon. A gigantic azure dragon. The dark clouds parted. A huge dragon's head slowly lowered. Green dragon. Is it azure dragon? Qian and Chi stared at azure dragon and shouted excitedly. Azure dragon. This was the azure dragon? One of the four great sacred beasts, the azure dragon sacred beast? Yiqing Luo raised her head and looked at the overbearing and domineering green dragon as a sliver of admiration and admiration flashed past her eyes. As expected of the head of the four great sacred beasts, the azure dragon. This aura is much stronger than Qian's arrogant vermilion bird. The azure dragon's appearance caused the three-eyed heavenly beasts to lower their heads even lower with their tails between their legs. Their eyes were filled with horror. Fengling, who was still struggling to lift her hand, fell down heavily. She looked at the place where the azure light was flickering in horror, murmuring in disbelief. Really, awakened in advance, why did she encounter it? She widened her eyes unwillingly. Chapter 3306. Yiqing Luo was stunned. No matter how much preparation she had done in her heart. When he saw a huge dragon head staring at him face to face, he felt a chill run down his spine. She couldn't help but be stunned on the spot. Her pupils reflected azure dragon's pair of dragon eyes. The dragon's eyes were shrouded with a thin layer of green light. This was Azure Dragon, the leader of the 4 sacred beasts, Azure Dragon Sacred Beast. Just a simple close distance. Yiqing Luo could feel the overbearing pressure from Azure Dragon. This pressure directly pierced through her heart. Even though Azure Dragon had specially concealed his dragon breath to prevent her from being frightened, it was unable to reduce its own existence. Who are its owner? Azure Dragon's deep voice suddenly pierced into her mind. Yiqing Luo blinked. Azure Dragon asked, "Was it Qi and Qian?" She looked at Qian and Qi's direction and nodded, yes. Azure Dragon's eyes were half squinted and its whiskers were slightly raised as it followed her gaze and looked at Qian and Qi. Because of Azure Dragon's appearance, Qian and Qi were excited and wanted to pounce towards Azure Dragon at any moment. The few of them had not met each other for too long. It was so long that they had almost forgotten those days that they had spent together. It wasn't easy to meet each other again. The 2 sacred beasts met Azure Dragon's line of sight. They immediately recalled Azure Dragon's question earlier. The 2 sacred beasts nodded their heads in unison. Xiao Qi, that's Qi's master, Qi's most beloved master Qiao Jiao. And that stupid human is this sacred beast's master. Don't misunderstand, this sacred beast doesn't like that stupid human. The sacred beast is totally cooperating with Qi. The 2 sacred beasts' eyes were filled with different emotions. But they could tell. The 2 of them liked Yiqing Luo from the bottom of their hearts. Azure Dragon slowly shifted his dragon eyes onto Yiqing Luo. The distance between them was very close. It was so close that its whiskers fell on her face. Azure Dragon's deep voice spoke again. "I'm not asking about those 2, but..." Its tail slowly curled up that little ball of Shiju on the ground and raised it in front of Yiqing Luo. At this time Shiju completely did not have the insurrection from before. Instead, it raised its small head and blinked its leopard eyes as it stared at the Azure Dragon curiously. He did not show the respect and fear that an illusory beast would have when seeing a holy beast. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand and held Shiju in her arms. The 2 hard objects on its head that looked like a pair of horns became more and more obvious. Yiqing Luo touched Shiju as she felt astonished. Azure Dragon was asking about Shiju? Shiju was only a low-level mirage beast. Why did the Azure Dragon ask if Shiju wanted to form a contract with her? Boss Long, you are asking about the black tortoise on the head of Shiju, right? Qian also felt that Azure Dragon could not care about a low-level magical beast for no reason. To tell the truth, when it first contracted with Yiqing Luo, when he discovered Shiju, this low-level mirage beast, towards Shiju he was also a little arrogant. It was also because Shiju was really cute and Qi was matchmaking at the side. It slowly accepted Shiju's existence. So Qian naturally felt that Azure Dragon was asking about the soul pearl which was condensed from the black tortoise's half-soul on Shiju's head. It answered on its own. Black tortoise has not contracted with her yet, but the half-soul has already been handed over to her, so the contract is just a matter of time. Shiju. Azure Dragon didn't seem to hear the latter half of Qian's sentence. Chapter 3307. Yiqing Luo's brows rose slightly as her long and narrow eyes squinted as she gazed into Azure Dragon's eyes. If she didn't hear wrongly. Just now when the Azure Dragon roared out, it revealed a feeling of benevolence. That's right, it was benevolence. Azure Dragon towards Shiju, benevolence? These few words spun rapidly in her mind. Made her brain go into a daze. This name was given by you? Azure Dragon's eyes stared unblinkingly at that little ball in Yiqing Luo's arms as he asked softly. Yiqing Luo lowered her head and looked at the black leopard in her arms. She raised her head again as she took a look at the dragon head which was just inches away from her. No matter what, she was unable to confirm the guess in her heart. This was impossible. This was simply fantasy story. Yiqing Luo shook her head as she shook off all those unrealistic thoughts in her mind as she coughed lightly and replied, "This name was given by its mother." Its mother. Azure Dragon's voice seemed to tremble slightly. Yiqing Luo didn't have the time to listen carefully. Azure Dragon's voice was heard once again. "Have you and Shiju formed a contract?" Yiqing Luo met with that pair of gentle and nostalgic eyes as she suppressed the doubts in her heart as she slowly nodded, "Then..." Azure Dragon's dragon head leaned nearer to her. The deep and resounding voice revealed a bewitching intent. Are you willing to form a contract with me? Are you willing to form a contract with me? This sentence was like a clap of thunder as it struck everyone present, be it beasts or undead puppets, causing them to be crispy on the outside but tender on the inside. Did they hear wrongly? Azure Dragon took the initiative to form a contract with a human? One of the 4 sacred beasts, the leading Azure Dragon sacred beast, actually took the initiative to form a contract with a human? What was going on? Especially Fengling, she watched as that dragon tail which had split her into 2 moved away and turned towards her enemy, requesting to form a contract. How could she possibly accept this? Azure Dragon. Fengling gritted her teeth as she growled. Do you know who was the one who helped you to wake up? If it wasn't for us, how could you possibly wake up? We spent so much effort to awaken you and you actually wanted to betray us. She let out a hysterical roar. Accompanied by a cracking sound, the skin that was being torn apart split open again. He heard Wind Time's hysteria. The Azure Dragon slowly straightened its body. It flicked its tail and shook its whiskers. The gentleness he had when facing Yiqing Luo had completely disappeared. The awe-inspiring aura was majestic and powerful. All of you deserve to die. The Azure Dragon opened his mouth and spat out a stream of dragon breath. The violent airwave blasted the 2 halves of Fengling's body apart. The Azure Dragon swung its tail at Fengling's neck again. In an instant, Fengling's neck was separated from her upper body. Even so, Windling's consciousness still existed. She widened her scarlet eyes, which were filled with resentment and unwillingness. Qinglong, you're ungrateful. Aren't you afraid of losing your green dragon's reputation? Azure Dragon's eyes were filled with disdain. His extremely cold and powerful aura washed everything around him. Although I am in a deep sleep state, it does not mean that I am unaware of what is happening in the outside world. You want to wake me up and use me for a monster like you? This is the real damage to my green dragon's prestige. Azure Dragon's tone was extremely calm, as though he was stating an ordinary matter. One word at a time, slowly and clearly enunciated. Chapter 3308. Let me correct one thing. Azure Dragon looked down at Fengling, who only had 1 head left. My awakening has nothing to do with you bunch of monster puppets. Immediately, it turned its head towards Yiqing Luo's direction. The dragon's eyes, which were filled with green light, gradually became more agile. It once again put its head in front of Yiqing Luo. Word by word, it said in a low voice, My awakening is because I sensed her summoning. Fengling's pupils suddenly shrank. And just at the moment when Azure Dragon's voice fell, Azure Dragon actually used an extremely pious posture as it lowered its head towards Yiqing Luo and spoke respectfully once again. You summoned me to awaken, so are you willing to form a pact with me? A high and mighty dragon. He had always been arrogant. Compared to Qian, he was much more arrogant. But Azure Dragon was so pious in front of Yiqing Luo. Even Qi and Qian were stunned by this scene. Yiqing Luo raised her head and exchanged glances with Azure Dragon. That domineering majesty which was exclusive to the Dragon clan, even if it was restrained, it was inevitable to overflow. Qi and Qian's hearts were lifted up. Their Boss Long's temperament. It was still the same as before. Even they, when facing Boss Long, they had to bear the majesty from Boss Long. Their master could only be considered as an ordinary person now. She would definitely be shocked by Boss Long. Qi was thinking of rushing up to help its master to ease the atmosphere. It saw its master meeting Boss Long's gaze. The corners of her lips rose, revealing a brilliant smile. That's right. Yiqing Luo smiled. Looking at Azure Dragon, she smiled brilliantly and was unfazed. She replied, Of course I'm willing, my purpose here is for you. Neither servile nor overbearing, neither arrogant nor rash. When she spoke, it was filled with confidence. She was arrogant but not domineering. She was confident but not ostentatious. Every inch of his expression, attitude, and tone of voice was perfectly controlled. Azure Dragon's eyes flashed with admiration. He brought his dragon head close to her little palm. Please form a blood pact with me. Blood pact? Fengling was howling in anger. Even the palace lord didn't dare to mention a blood pact. The Azure Dragon actually took the initiative to suggest it. So be it if Azure Dragon took the initiative to form a contract with Yiqing Luo. He even brought up a blood pact. This was the first time Azure Dragon met Yiqing Luo. He had to hand over his future to Yiqing Luo. What was it about Yiqing Luo that attracted the Azure Dragon? The conversation she heard before she was sent to the Forbidden Land appeared in Feng Ling's mind. It was a conversation between the palace lord's right-hand man. One was called Yu Nu and the other was Yu Han. The two of them thought that their batch of new undead puppets was still in a coma during the experiment and hadn't woken up yet. Thus, they spoke without restraint. What she remembered very clearly was that lady called Yu Nu said, "You must be careful of the green dragon's awakening. You must not let Yiqing Luo and the green dragon bump into each other, otherwise all your hard work would be wasted." From the very beginning, Darkness Palace had already guessed it. Was there any connection between Azure Dragon and Yiqing Luo? Why were all the good things monopolized by Yiqing Luo alone? Feng Ling could hear the cracks on her face getting bigger. She couldn't care less. A pair of venomous eyes stared deadly at Yiqing Luo's direction. Chapter 3309. Life and Death Contract. Completed. When that symbol of the blood contract imprint faintly entered Azure Dragon's head, Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly swayed. Within her body, a surge of powerful energy surged. Surging violently, following Azure Dragon's low dragon roar, the rolling became more and more ferocious. She could even hear that surge of energy. In her internal organs it kept crashing and slapping. At the profound jade heart, the scorching heat was surging rapidly. Your profound jade heart. Azure Dragon was slightly shocked as he looked at the pair of eyes closed, absorbing the fused energy after the contract between the two. The smile in its eyes became even more pronounced. Profound jade heart. When Feng Ling heard this word, she was stunned. She suddenly recalled the two black-robed men she met in the dark forces. A dark glint flashed past her eyes. Profound jade heart. Right. Yiqing Luo, your profound jade heart. As though she had finally found a way to defeat Yiqing Luo, Feng Ling laughed crazily. That's the tranquil bead, do you still remember? Did you really think that I'm kind enough to give you the tranquil bead? You don't know that tranquil bead was actually given by a black-robed man. But her crazy words had yet to finish. Suddenly, a miserable cry was heard. A burst of black energy turned into a sharp blade, stabbing straight into Feng Ling's face. Feng Ling only had time to let out that miserable cry. Her entire face with that sharp blade as the center started to crack. With a paw sound it split into pieces. His entire head had been reduced to pieces. Such a movement made Yiqing Luo opened her eyes. Her vision coincidentally saw those few corpse puppets in front, retracting their attacking hands. Seeing Yiqing Luo's gaze locked onto them, they exchanged glances, their expressions congealed. Go. Their words fell, the figures of the 5 corpse puppets, like black smoke, blended into the air. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased. It wasn't that she didn't want to chase those 5 corpse puppets. But now because the fused energy in her body was about to break through, there was no way to move. Master. Chi-Chi's worried little voice rang softly beside her ear. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath and suppressed the scorching agitation of her profound heart jade. She had heard what Feng Ling had said just now. The tranquil orb that she had obtained from Feng Ling, the tranquil orb that had suppressed the agitation of her profound jade heart, had been examined by Zhou Xian and her ghost doctor master. There should be no problem. But Wind Chime said, was there something wrong with the tranquility bead? Was it a smokescreen that he purposely left behind before he died? No, that should be impossible. Otherwise, the 5 corpse puppets wouldn't have killed Feng Ling in the end to silence her. If there was a problem with the tranquility bead, would it affect the profound heart jade if she was placed inside it? Calming bead. Azure Dragon asked in confusion. Immediately after, Yiqing Luo felt a surge of energy slowly pacifying her restlessness from her profound jade heart. It was Azure Dragon. He was searching for her profound heart jade. After a while, Azure Dragon said calmly, there is nothing strange about this pearl. This profound heart jade of yours is too powerful. Your ability is not enough to match up to it. This tranquil orb coincidentally suppresses this profound heart jade of yours, in case you suffer from the backlash of the profound heart jade. To you it's only beneficial and harmless. Even Azure Dragon said so, which also meant that this tranquil orb. Indeed, there shouldn't be any problem, but in her heart, there was an uneasy premonition. Chapter 3310. Lass. Suddenly, a calm and hoarse voice rang in Yiqing Luo's mind. That voice was so familiar and warm that it made her eyes redden. Song Old Man Song. This voice was Old Man Song's voice without a doubt. Old Man Song's voice which had disappeared for a long time. Yiqing Luo's heart started to palpitate violently. Even the fused energy in her body seemed to have sensed the agitation in her heart as it started to surge wildly. Lass, don't think about other things first. Concentrate on condensing your qi, stabilize your state of mind and break through first. This is the only opportunity like this. Old Man Song calmly appeased Yiqing Luo's emotions. After you break through, we'll talk about other things, all right? That steady voice which sounded like a clear spring easily soothed the restlessness and uneasiness in her heart. Made her feel very safe. Right she now. She had to work hard to fuse with the contracted Azure Dragon's energy. Only by breaking through to the profound grade would she be able to obtain even stronger power. Only then would she be able to protect herself, the people around her and her companions. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath as she pressed on the rising temperature of her profound jade heart. Her vision slowly swept past those few battle pets who were looking at her worriedly, and those heaven-reaching beasts who were crawling on the ground, shivering. Finally, it landed on Zhu Xian, who was leaning against the broken tree with a pale face, but his eyes were filled with burning emotions. She pursed her lips and didn't avoid Zhu Xian's gaze. Zhu Xian, these pills are all refined by me. Saying that, she took out more than 10 bottles from the profound phoenix ring bottles and jars, and threw them all towards Zhu Xian. Zhu Xian's sleeves swept as he caught those bottles and jars steadily. After throwing the bottles, Yiqing Luo only felt a buzzing sound in her mind, making the dizziness in front of her become more obvious. And it was because of this dizziness. She didn't have the energy to pick out any pills suitable for Zhu Xian's consumption or external use from the profound phoenix ring. Perhaps it was because after contracting the Azure Dragon, the fusion of energy, her senses at this moment soared to the highest point. She could clearly feel that in this forbidden ground, there was a subtle flow of air which she couldn't see, little by little, surging towards her. Then it wrapped around her. An indescribable feeling invaded her body and mind. She stopped thinking about it and immediately sat down cross-legged. Just as he closed his eyes, his qi sank into his dantian, and his mental energy gathered in the profound jade heart. Suddenly, the dizziness in his mind and the buzzing sound were brushed by something cold. Her entire body was clear and bright. Whoosh! The majestic profound glow encircled Yiqing Luo's surroundings as it started to revolve. The scorching heat of the profound heart jade began to rise. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel her own aura rising rapidly. Even if he didn't open his eyes, Yiqing Luo's heart seemed to be able to see the circles of qi waves in the air, seeping into her body. As the profound light spread, the aura within his body increased. That ice-cold sense of clarity gradually dissipated. Instead, it was a blazing fire. Oh! Yiqing Luo groaned. Such a change in profound strength. This meant that she was currently touching the barrier of advancement. As long as this barrier was broken, he poured all the dark force in his body into it. She would be able to advance successfully. Chapter 33:11. Yiqing Luo stabilized her state of mind as she tried her best to adjust the profound energy in her body. The more it was like this, the more he couldn't panic. After reaching the profound sky realm, every promotion or breakthrough was extremely important. His mind became unstable. His thoughts were a mess. A weak point in the consciousness. It was very likely that it would cause the profound energy within the body to go berserk and cause the profound heart jade to go out of control. As a result, he went berserk. In the worst case, his body would explode and he would die. The spiritual land of heaven and earth kept moving towards the direction where Yiqing Luo was sitting cross-legged. Around her, the speed of rotation was also gradually increasing. The girl's fiery red dress fluttered in the wind. Her hair was still flying in the air. A thin layer of light enveloped the girl. It made her seem even more like a fairy from the 9 heavens that had descended to the mortal world, pure and elegant beyond compare. Zhu Xian's cold eyes stared closely at the girl's face. His eyes were filled with complicated emotions. He seemed to be thinking about something. His brows slowly furrowed. The emotions in his eyes became more and more complicated. He seemed to be in a dilemma but also seemed to be hesitating. Dong! There was a soft sound. The medicine bottle in his hand fell to the ground, creating a loud noise. It also awakened his meditative thoughts. Zhou Xian retracted his gaze and stared at the white porcelain bottle on the ground. After a long time he reached out and picked up the bottle. There were more than a dozen white porcelain bottles in his wide palm, and a faint medicinal fragrance wafted out. His eyes darkened. It was as if a hand had reached out from his heart and strangled it. He pursed his lips, stiffly raised his hand and opened one of the bottles. The fragrance that assailed the nostrils indicated that the quality of the pill was extremely high, indicating that the alchemist's attainments were extremely profound. He smelled it and poured one out. They were pearl-like, exquisitely carved pills. He didn't hesitate or think too deeply about what kind of medicine it was. He stuffed the pill into his mouth and swallowed it. Or perhaps, even if the pill in his hand was poisonous, as long as Yiqing Luo gave it to him, he didn't bat an eyelid and was willing to endure the hardship. Is it worth it? In his mind he suddenly recalled the question that person had asked earlier. That was a question he could not answer. That person's words were filled with the courage to bewitch people. He could feel it very clearly. Even for him his mind was somewhat restrained. Well, to be more precise, because in that person's words, the main topic revolved around Yiqing Luo. Therefore his mind was affected. Was it worth it? For a girl who no longer had him in her heart, and who loved another man deeply. He gave up the dream he once had. He gave up the position that he had obtained through countless sweat and blood. He had given up all the things that he had always insisted on. He was even willing to die for her. Was it really worth it? He had asked himself this question countless times. He could not get an answer. Even if, obviously knowing that the young lady in front of him was very possibly not Yiqing Luo. Zhou Xian closed his eyes. The expression on his face and the aura he exuded. It was a rare feeling of loneliness and hesitation. In his mind he couldn't help but think back to that day when he left the inn in South Wave Continent. Memory, Zhou Xian had not gone far from Valley Wind City. The human face hidden in his arm appeared on his skin. Castle Lord, thank you for saving me. The human-faced skin expressed its gratitude respectfully. However, just as he expressed his gratitude, the next moment, the human-faced skin felt a tearing pain. Chapter 33:12. The human-faced skin's mouth gave out a painful shriek. Castle Lord, what are you doing? I'm going to be torn apart, torn apart. Zhu Xian's 5 fingers pinched the human-faced skin tightly. A raging force spread out from his fingertips. The human face skin could feel the tearing pain as it kept on tearing its face skin. The human face skin begged for mercy in terror. Castle Lord, please spare my life. Castle Lord, I didn't intentionally hide on your body and pollute your body. I really have no choice. It thought that Zhou Xian was specially sent by the revered one to save it. But Zhou Xian's entire body was filled with raging flames, but it totally didn't seem like he was trying to save it. That's right, it was raging. Although Zhou Xian was expressionless and his eyes were calm. That pair of icy cold eyes didn't seem to have any fluctuations. But as the human face skin, through Zhou Xian's skin contact, it could clearly sense the rage in Zhou Xian's chest. The human face skin panicked. The more it begged for mercy, the more intense the pain on its face became. The human face skin was filled with terror. If Zhou Xian used any more strength, its human face skin might really be torn apart. If the human face skin was torn apart, its grievance would also be torn apart. It would completely disappear from this world. The human face skin hurriedly opened its mouth. Castle Lord, I really didn't do it on purpose. I just want to stay alive and report to Palace Lord about the progress of the mission. Castle Lord, you and Palace Lord have worked together for such a long time and you should know Palace Lord's temper. I am also. You shouldn't have made a move on her. Zhou Xian's icy cold voice interrupted the human face skin's explanation. That pair of icy cold eyes met indifferently with the human face skin's eyes. The human face skin was stunned. Her? Castle Lord, you're talking about? Which her? His words had just ended. Zhou Xian's fingers increased in strength. The human face skin was in so much pain that it grimaced in pain as it cried out miserably. However, this pain also made it understand. The person whom the Castle Lord was talking about was Yiqing Luo. Hiding in the Castle Lord's body, the human face skin was still paying attention to the situation outside. It naturally noticed that the castle lord was taking care of Yiqing Luo. At first, the human face thought that, for the sake of the venerable one, the castle lord purposely sacrificed himself to save it. However, feeling the fury of castle lord, Zhang Tai felt that castle lord was infuriated. Only then did the human skin realize. It wasn't fake. Castle lord's care and feelings towards Yiqing Luo were all real. Castle lord, it's not my fault. I'm just following an order. The human face was so scared that he wanted to cry. Suddenly Zhou Wuxin raised his head. He loosened his grip on the man's face. A pair of emotionless eyes stared straight ahead. Since you're here, why hide? As expected of great Fort Master Chu. Every time he would be able to discover my presence. In the direction that Zhou Wuxin was looking at, a tall, mysterious person shrouded in a black robe walked out. That laughter was deep and resounding. From the sound of it, he should be a man who was at least 30 years old. Zhou Wuxin's expression didn't fluctuate at all. What are you here for? To see if my plan is progressing smoothly. The mysterious black-robed man replied frankly. In an instant he was already standing in front of Zhou Wuxin. The human face skin in Zhou Wuxin's hands trembled slightly as a terrified expression surfaced. Palace Lord. Chapter 33:13. Zhou Wuxin's face turned even colder, a cold light in his eyes. You shouldn't have touched her. Facing the invisible pressure released by Zhou Wuxin, the mysterious black-robed man laughed out loud. The mysterious black-robed man burst into laughter. Fort Master Chu, are you planning to harm our cooperation for a woman? Zhou Wuxin's fingers tightened. That human face was pinched in his palm. The extreme pain made the human face cry for help. Palace Master, save me, save me. The mysterious black-robed man stood still. He had no intention of making a move, nor did he open his mouth to plead for the human face. Rip, a tearing sound was heard. The human face's screams stopped abruptly, turning into pieces. Zhou Wuxin's face was cold and he waved his hand. The pieces of human face fluttered in the wind. At this time the mysterious black-robed man spoke. Have you calmed down? Just as the mysterious black-robed man's voice fell, Zhou Wuxin's figure moved, and he charged towards the person in front of him with endless and terrifying profound energy. The mysterious black-robed man didn't dodge. A punch landed heavily on the mysterious black-robed man's chest. The mysterious black-robed man's body flew backward. The tip of his foot drew a deep mark on the ground behind him. He clutched his chest and a hoarse and muffled groan came from his throat. Zhou Wuxin frowned. Why didn't you dodge? The mysterious black-robed man slowly steadied his body and swayed. How will you calm down if I dodge? Zhou Wuxin retracted his hand, but his face was still as cold as ice. In the future, if you attack her without my knowledge again, don't blame me for becoming enemies with you. The mysterious black-robed man laughed in a low voice. This laugh seemed to cause a sharp pain in his chest and he coughed a few more times. I didn't expect Castle Master Chu to be such an infatuated person. Zhou Wuxin's face was cold and he didn't speak. The mysterious black-robed man seemed to be long used to Zhou Wuxin's indifferent character. He leaned against a tree trunk at the side and said with a low laugh, Is it worth it? Is it worth it? Zhou Wuxin's eyes flickered but he still didn't speak. Castle Master Chu, you should know better than anyone, that the person you want, is not her at all. The mysterious black-robed man slowly raised his hand and stretched it out towards him. Why do you keep deceiving yourself? It's better to cooperate with this consort. As long as our plan succeeds, it'll be a piece of cake for you to find her. The voice of the mysterious black-robed man was full of bewitchment. How could she not be her? Zhu Wuxin suddenly raised his head, the coldness in his eyes even more intense. Not sure if he was trying to convince himself or the person in front of him. She is Yiqing Luo. If it wasn't for Yiqing Luo, Three Springs sect would have discovered it long ago. On her wrist there was a unique birthmark. The profound heart jade in her body is also truly only compatible with her. Zhu Wuxian's voice became increasingly hurried. Right now she is becoming stronger and stronger and her transformation is becoming greater and greater. This is all because she has learned how to properly use her profound heart jade. Zhou Wuxin's eyes were no longer as calm and composed as before. Because of his impatience and the depression in his heart. He didn't notice at all. The hand which the mysterious black-robed man stretched out towards him moved slightly. Whereas earlier the human face which was shredded by Zhou Xian fluttering in the skies. It actually followed the command of the mysterious black-robed man's hand. It turned into a wisp of black-colored smoke as it merged into Zhou Xian's body. Ha ha ha. After confirming that the black-colored smoke had completely merged into Zhou Xian's body, the mysterious black-robed man laughed softly. Chapter 33:14. Because of this seemingly laughing yet not laughing yet ridiculing voice, Zhou Xian steadied his state of mind as he regained his usual coldness. What are you laughing at? I'm laughing at you, the castle lord of Death God Castle, heartless, destitute and heartless, actually learnt to deceive yourself and others. The black-robed mysterious man hit the nail on the head as he ridiculed impolitely. Zhou Xian's expression sunk as his icy cold eyes burst with murderous intent. Castle Lord Chu, do you think those excuses of yours are able to deceive your own heart? The black-robed mysterious man wasn't afraid of Zhou Xian's murderous intent as he asked with a smile. Zhou Xian's expression congealed as the radiance in his cold eyes slowly dimmed. The black-robed mysterious man laughed lightly. The laughter seemed to be filled with ridicule and ridicule. It made Zhou Xian's heart inexplicably shrouded with a layer of restless and chaotic emotions. That restlessness made his emotions faintly emit a sliver of impatient anger. Just at this moment, the black-robed mysterious man suddenly appeared in front of him. Both hands were placed on his shoulders. Under the black robe, that pair of sinister eyes made one feel as though they had fallen into an ice house. Their four eyes met. Immediately following that, the black-robed mysterious man's bewitching voice rang. Castle Lord Chu, have you heard of possession? Possession? Zhou Xian's expressionless face had some changes. His icy cold and dim eyes were gradually covered with a layer of thin ice. You should have sensed it yourself. The black-robed mysterious man laughed softly. The person whom you want wholeheartedly has long changed her soul. Zhou Xian's pupils constricted slightly. The black-robed mysterious man had been observing Zhou Xian's changes. Following that, according to the changes in Zhou Xian's expression, he used a different tone as he continued bewitchingly. The soul in that body is not the person who had once pledged eternal love with you. The soul in that body now is the person who had seized the real Yiqing Luo's body. She is your enemy. As the black-robed mysterious man's voice and tone gradually became heavier, the changes in Zhou Xian's pupils became more and more obvious. His emotions also fluctuated intensely because of the black-robed mysterious man's words. For Master Chu, what you need to do is to see our cooperation through to the end. Only by ascending to the peak that we want to reach. Then you will be able to summon back the real Yiqing Luo's soul, and let the real Yiqing Luo return to your side. After saying the last word, the mysterious black-robed man gently patted Zhou Xian's shoulder. Zhou Xian shuddered. That pair of emotionless eyes faintly revealed a trace of deep darkness. From the perspective of the mysterious black-robed man, I can see it clearly. As his bewitchment deepened, the black smoke slowly seeping out of Zhou Xian's head became more and more obvious. The mysterious black-robed man's thin and cold lips gently curled up. His sinister and treacherous eyes were filled with a complacent smile. End of recollection. Indeed, it was just as Zhou Xian had thought. The pills which Yiqing Luo refined were all top-grade pills. After taking it, the effects were quickly seen. The pain in his injured internal organs also gradually subsided. His breathing had also become much smoother. He opened his eyes and his vision unknowingly shifted onto Yiqing Luo. Looking at the young lady with her eyes shut, with a serious and strict expression. In his mind, the black-robed mysterious man's words surfaced once again. Is he going to take over my body? The soul in this body had already changed into another soul. Who is the current soul? Had it seized the Yiqing Luo which belonged to him? Chapter 33:15. But why? When he saw the young lady in front of him, that throbbing in his heart instead. Compared to when he was young, when he first met Yiqing Luo, it was even more passionate. Oh! This thought flashed past his mind. Zhou Xian only felt a sudden swelling pain in his head. As though his entire head was about to explode. That labor pain. Even he who was long used to any kind of pain, couldn't help but groaned. The pain was so distraught that he didn't have any other thoughts to think about his feelings towards Yiqing Luo. At this moment, the young lady who had her eyes shut tightly and was concentrating on her advancement, suddenly shuddered. A strong profound ray was released from her body. Bam! Yiqing Luo heard a muffled sound exploding in her mind. The profound energy in her profound jade heart shook. She suddenly opened her eyes. The profound ray released from her body became brighter and brighter as it spread in all directions. Roar, roar, roar. In the forbidden grounds, numerous demonic beasts howled towards the sky. The profound ray, after the radiance, slowly returned to calmness. Bit by bit, with an extremely slow speed, it started to retract. At the same time, no matter if it was the demonic beasts, sacred beasts, or Zhou Xian by the side, they could all clearly feel. The young lady's imposing manner was rising bit by bit, following the profound ray gathering on her body. When she was completely enveloped within, bam! In the air, another burst of spirit wave vibrations was heard. Advanced Sky Profound 4th grade. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists tightly as the chi waves from her body shook. She had succeeded, successfully leapfrogging to Sky Profound 4th grade. One must know that after Sky Profound Realm, every grade was as difficult as ascending to heaven. She had successfully leapfrogged 3 grades. If this news were to spread, the entire Nirvana realm would probably be in an uproar. Yiqing Luo could feel it. This time her advancement felt different from the past. After the advancement was successful, her sensing towards the surrounding chi waves and the heaven and earth's spiritual chi was much more obvious than before. Moreover, her control towards her profound jade heart had also increased by a lot. Haha. Lass, I knew you could do it. In the azure dew bracelet, Old Man Song's excited laughter was heard. Good lass, I'm so happy. Ha. Old Song. Hearing the familiar laughter, Yiqing Luo's smile became more radiant. I'm very happy to be able to advance, but what makes me even happier is... Old Man Song, you're back. Old Man Song's laughter slightly paused. Soon after, he continued with a smile. This old man is still counting on you to reconstruct this old man's body. Unless you don't want this old man anymore, this old man will always follow you. Yiqing Luo also smiled, but her eyes were slightly red. I won't abandon you, never again. Old Man Song's laughter gradually became somewhat choked with emotion. This is something to be happy about. Why did you make the atmosphere so emotional? Qi Yan shouted discontentedly. Ugly woman, you can successfully promote, at least you did not lose this holy beast's face. It is worthy of praise. Chi pounced forward and hugged Yiqing Luo's face with its little paws in pet form. Master is the best. The addition of the 2 battle pets eased the tension. Yiqing Luo touched the 2 little companions' heads and immediately carried Chi as she walked towards Zhou Xian. Are you all right? Zhou Xian was still staring at her in a daze. His usually cold and aloof eyes were a little empty. Until Yiqing Luo's finger waved in front of Zhou Xian's eyes. Chapter 33:16. In his hand, her skin was soft and fragrant. The familiar fragrance made Zhou Xian relax his strength immediately. But the hand which was holding her wrist didn't loosen up. Yiqing Luo shrank back. Zhou Xian tightened his grip slightly as his cold eyes met hers. I don't understand your medicine. I've only taken 1 pill in this bottle and it still hurts. Help me take a look. Calm tone, calm expression. But why did the words he said sound like acting coquettishly? Yiqing Luo took a look at the bottle which Zhou Xian's other hand was holding. That was a pain-killing pill. Although it had some effect on treating internal injuries. But the main effect was to stop the pain. Yiqing Luo took a look at the scattered medicine bottles by his leg. Let go of me first, I'll apply the medicine for you. Let go, I'll hurt. Zhou Xian said without any change in expression. Yiqing Luo. He had already taken the pain-killing pill, what was there to hurt? Using this as an excuse, wasn't he afraid that his aloof male god image would collapse? Recalling the time in South Tide Continent, Zhou Xian used his own face to invade his arm as an excuse. All kinds of acting coquettishly. Alright, his persona had long since collapsed. But now it felt that it had collapsed even more. Previously, even if Zhou Xian said sweet words and did romantic things, that still retained his cold and aloof nobility. But for some reason now, she felt that Zhou Xian had become more gentle. Like, as though he had suddenly thought through something and was ready to go all out. Go all out. This feeling made Yiqing Luo feel uneasy when she faced Zhu Wuxia. Gratitude was gratitude, but she didn't love Zhu Wuxia. Nor could she give Zhu Wuxia any hope. Facing such a Zhu Wuxia, as compared to the past, the pressure was even greater. She exerted force and retracted her hand. The expression on her face was very indifferent and serious. Zhu Wuxia, I can't be bothered to repeat the unnecessary words since you won't listen to it. She stood up and stared at Zhu Wuxian's pale and stern face. If you're willing to treat your injuries, I'll do it for you now. If not, we'll leave the forbidden grounds now. Zhu Wuxia raised his head slightly as his icy cold eyes gazed deeply at her face. While listening to her mouth saying those serious and earnest words, the light in his cold eyes dimmed little by little. In the end, his eyes were like stagnant water. Yiqing Luo's heart jolted. Zhu Wuxian's current appearance could indeed make one feel a sense of guilt in one's heart. It was as if it was because of her words. Zhu Wuxian lost all his life force. That's right, it was vitality. It was as if all the auras in the area had suddenly gone dark and faded away. This feeling made Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased even tighter. She shouldn't waver. No matter how much guilt and gratitude he felt towards Zhu Wuxian. Because this man was too stubborn. His obsession was already deeply rooted in his bones. No matter how much she refused, Zhu Wuxian probably wouldn't listen at all. I don't love him. No matter how much concern and obedience. To him they were all cruel. She could only use her own actions to show her attitude. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath, turned around and said to the few battle pets, "Go pick the gold magnetic spirit grass first." The few battle pets raised their tails and blinked their eyes as they looked behind Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo spoke calmly. If he's not willing to cooperate with the treatment of his internal injury, then don't bother about him. Saying that, she had already walked towards the direction of the gold magnetic spirit grass. The few battle pets looked at each other in dismay for a moment. Chapter 33:17. And just as the other battle pets were chasing after Yiqing Luo, Zhu Wuxian's vision had been congealing on Yiqing Luo, as his dull pupils shook slightly in his eye sockets. A wisp of black smoke. From his head it slowly dispersed. The hands hanging by the side of his body slowly clenched. The green dragon, who vaguely sensed something amiss, raised its whiskers as it suddenly looked towards Zhu Wuxian. Coincidentally, it heard Zhu Wuxian's cold voice rang, "I'll cooperate with the treatment." The green dragon narrowed its eyes. Could it be that it had sensed wrongly earlier? Plop. Suddenly, a soft sound was heard from the side. The green dragon lowered its head and saw beside its huge dragon body a small lump of black little thing with its four limbs facing the sky, lying by its side. The green dragon lowered its eyes. The little black ball fluttered its four limbs, trying to get up from the ground. But the more anxious it was, the more it could only flop on the ground. That little black ball was so small, just like a small mole on the huge green dragon's body. The green dragon's flame was completely retracted. The dragon body swiftly turned into an ordinary size. It lowered its dragon head and used its whiskers to gently touch the little black ball. Its noble and dignified self was now emitting a loving feeling. And it was because of this episode. The green dragon didn't delve into the strange aura which it sensed from Zhu Wuxian earlier. Yiqing Luo heard Zhu Wuxian's words. Her footsteps halted as she turned around and walked back to Zhu Wuxian's side without saying a word as she half squatted down. Her hand was just about to stretch out towards the 10 over medicinal bottles on the ground. Her wrist was once again held by Zhu Wuxian. Yiqing Luo's expression sunk. Zhu Wuxian. Zhu Wuxian only held her wrist as he slowly pushed her hand away and let go of her hand. "These medicinal pills, since you've already thrown them to me, then they belong to me." A deep and cold magnetic voice floated down from the top of her head. Yiqing Luo. If he wanted the medicinal pills which she had refined, just say so directly. Using such an awkward method, didn't he find it childish? Yiqing Luo only assumed that Zhu Wuxian had taken a fancy to the high-quality medicinal pills which she had refined and wanted to keep it for future use. After all, in the Nirvana realm, the value of the pill was immeasurable. Some people were even willing to give up their entire family fortune in order to obtain a single pill. So, Yiqing Luo couldn't be blamed for thinking this way. Zhu Wuxian wanted the pill. Yiqing Luo felt that it wasn't bad to use medicinal pills to repay Zhu Xian's kindness. Therefore he took out some internal injury healing elixirs from the profound phoenix ring and began to treat Zhou Xian. This time Zhou Xian was very quiet. Even Yiqing Luo had touched his wound. His expression didn't change at all. Even his eyelashes did not tremble. He just quietly stared at the scattered medicine bottles at his feet. No one knew what he was thinking. After a moment of silence, there were many small wounds on Zhou Xian's body. For some injuries, even if painkillers were swallowed, they would still hurt when the medicine was applied. But Yiqing Luo didn't even hear the change in Zhu Xian's breathing. This man, don't tell me they're like the undead puppets and have no senses? Yiqing Luo was bandaging his wound as she raised her eyes. The man's cold face was reflected in her eyes from a close distance. He was indeed handsome like a jade. His entire face seemed as though it was carved out of a beautiful jade. Adding on to that pair of cold eyes which seemed to see through all the coldness and warmth of the world. That imposing manner which was isolated from the world was unattainable. It could be said. Chapter 33:18. Such a good-looking man. Why couldn't he get over it to insist on being obsessed with her? To tell the truth, as long as he slightly retracted that icy cold aura. What warmth did he not have? Perhaps it was because Yiqing Luo's gaze was too scorching. The man raised his head and his icy cold eyes coincidentally met with her charming eyes. His thin lips moved slightly as his cold voice carried a tinge of iciness. Why? Finally realized that this face of mine is more attractive than him? Yiqing Luo, who was caught sneaking a peek, didn't dare to show any expression. Instead, she openly stared at him directly. The man's lips curled as the exquisite cold lines on his face became gentler. If you want to look, I can let you look for a lifetime. Yiqing Luo. This fellow, when did he learn the tactic of seducing a man? Yiqing Luo increased the strength in her hand as she pressed on his wound. This face of yours is indeed good-looking, but I still prefer my Zhou Xian's face more. A man who didn't show any signs of change when she applied medicine or when she pressed on his wound. After she finished saying this sentence, all the muscles on his body suddenly tightened. The pressure on his body at this instant sank. Yiqing Luo was very close and could feel it very clearly. But she didn't mind it and pretended that she didn't notice it. Unknowingly displaying their affection, this was also the way to make Zhu Xian give up. She continued to apply medicine. He remained silent. The atmosphere became even more treacherous than before. The other few companions had long shrunk to one side, avoiding this kind of atmosphere. Yiqing Luo increased her speed. Very quickly she tied the last piece of bandage. Following that, she took half a step back. If you have any questions to ask me, just ask. Zhu Xian was the first to break the silence. As long as it's something you ask, I will answer it. Yiqing Luo. He thought that she kept staring at him because she was hesitating if she should carry out a series of questions and answers. Although, when she saw Zhu Xian appearing in the forbidden grounds, she indeed had questions to ask. Later on, she heard the conversation between him and Feng Ling. The questions she wanted to ask were even more. But she wanted to ask didn't mean that she would really ask. If Zhu Xian wasn't willing to say, she wouldn't ask either. Just now she was merely staring at him. Everyone had their own secrets. A person like Zhou Xian, like Zhou Xian, they were both mysterious and powerful existences. It was inevitable for him to have secrets. But she looked into Zhou Xian's emotionless eyes. Yiqing Luo's mind suddenly recalled what Zhu Xian said at that time. Now, no matter what changes happen, I will always protect you. This is something that will never change. Then there was the sound of wind chimes. Didn't you already know everything? Why did you still save her? These two sentences made Yiqing Luo swallow the words that were at the tip of her tongue. In the end, she still asked, you are working with the Palace of Gloomy Shadows, right? The answer was very obvious. Zhou Xian nodded. Yes. You appearing here, is it arranged by the Nether Palace? Yiqing Luo asked again. No. Zhou Xian looked at her firmly. I came here because of you. Me. Yiqing Luo was disrupted by his words, as the firm guess in her heart was disrupted. Chapter 33:19. So, you heard that the Palace of Umbra is going to attack me in the forbidden area of the East Continent, so you rushed over? Yiqing Luo pursed her lips slightly as she continued. This piece of forbidden grounds because of the sealing of the Azure Dragon's energy. It's impossible for humans to get close to this place. Since you're not relying on the Palace of Gloom to stand here safe and sound, then why are you all right? This question caused Zhou Xian to be slightly stunned. The calmness on his face also disappeared. He frowned slightly. You don't believe me? I believe that you won't hurt me. Yiqing Luo replied without any hesitation. Her voice was resolute and straightforward. But I don't believe the secluded palace. You don't want me to cooperate with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness, right? Zhou Wuxian lowered his eyes, his gaze a little gloomy. He brought up the topic of his identity. Yiqing Luo knew that he didn't want to say it. She didn't pursue the matter. Instead, he followed Zhou Wuxian's words and replied, I hope that it won't affect your cooperation with the Palace of Darkness. Before he could finish, Zhou Wuxian hurriedly interrupted her. As long as you do not wish for it, I will not cooperate. His tone was still cold and indifferent. However, his eagerness and the emotions overflowing from his eyes were filled with hope. It was as if he was waiting for her to take the initiative to speak. Yiqing Luo looked at him fixedly. Their eyes met for a moment. She stood up. Her beautiful face was emotionless. Zhou Wuxian, we are not on the same path. You are working with the Palace of Gloomy Shadows because you need to make use of them. As for me, I am destined to be the enemy of the Palace of Darkness. Even though we don't have any conflicts of interest now, we will still become enemies in the end. Her eyes were calm. Just like that, he looked down on Zhou Wuxian. Chu Wuxin, no matter how firm your feelings for me are, what's more important is your own goal. Just like me, even if I feel guilty and grateful to you, I won't coexist peacefully with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness because of this. Just like the Gloomy Palace, even though we're working together, they won't give up just because of your feelings for me. Her words were very realistic. It was also a fact. Because the two of them did not choose the same path. No matter how much Zhou Wuxian felt that he wouldn't hurt her and could even go against the Palace of Darkness to protect her. The premise of all this was that he would not hurt her and protect her, and it would not affect his own interests. Just like what happened in the forbidden area of the East Wave continent this time. It was obvious that the Palace of Gloomy Darkness wanted the Azure Dragon. This was not difficult to guess. After all, when the Vermilion Bird was about to awaken, the Dark Forces had spent a lot of manpower and resources to obtain the Vermilion Bird. He had almost taken control of Vermilion Bird. Now the White Tiger, the Vermilion Bird, and half of the Black Tortoise's soul were in her hands. Be it because the Azure Dragon was the head of the 4 great divine beasts, it was the strongest. By contracting the Azure Dragon, the Gloomy Palace's strength would increase greatly. Or was it to prevent Yiqing Luo from gathering the 4 sacred beasts? The Darkness Palace would definitely be eyeing Azure Dragon. But now, the Azure Dragon still fell into her hands. The interests of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness were severely damaged. However, to Zhou Wuxian, there were no benefits involved. That was why he could appear in the forbidden area unscrupulously and stand in front of her to protect her. Their positions were different. Their way of living was different. She had no rights to persuade Zhou Wuxian not to work together with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. Chapter 33:20. Yiqing Luo. Zhou Wuxian's expression turned increasingly complicated and gloomy. His icy cold eyes shone with a chilly glint which made one's heart tremble. Yiqing Luo noticed the coldness emitting from Zhou Wuxian. She didn't bother about it. She just bent down and stretched out her hand to help him up. Following that, she beckoned Chi-Chi over and turned it into an ordinary tiger beast as she helped Zhou Wuxian up. Yiqing Luo said, "Let's leave the forbidden grounds first." Zhou Wuxian stared at her back view as he pursed his lips into a straight line. Yiqing Luo's words made him want to retort, but he didn't know how to. Indeed, their standpoints were different. The path they chose was different. The way they lived was also different. He was able to disrupt the Nether Palace for Yiqing Luo because of her plans and missions. Just because of the Nether Palace, it was impossible to cancel the collaboration with him. Yes. It was impossible for him not to cooperate with the Nether Palace. But if Yiqing Luo asked him personally, he would indeed agree. But he would still use another method to make use of the Nether Palace's power to achieve his goal. The destination was different. The journey was different. Yiqing Luo might not be considered as white, but she was definitely not black. And he was completely black. His life was completely black. His future was also completely black. Zhu Wuxian shut his eyes forcefully as he allowed Yiqing Luo to help him onto Chi-Chi's back. Chi-Chi followed behind Yiqing Luo. The tiger beast's feet stepped on the ground as it rubbed against the leaves. It blended with the sound of the young lady's light footsteps. Vaguely, Zhu Wuxian could smell the young lady's fragrance following the breeze. He was following beside him. Suddenly he was thinking. If it was the previous Yiqing Luo. That completely white, kind and innocent Yiqing Luo. If she followed beside him. Could she dye her completely black? In this way. When he fell into the abyss. His heart would no longer be empty. With the azure dragon present. All the demonic beasts in the Forbidden Grounds had submitted. There was no need for Yiqing Luo to say anything. Those three-eyed heavenly beasts obediently brought Yiqing Luo to the place where the gold magnetic grass was planted. Because the Forbidden Grounds was shrouded with the azure dragon's special presence all year round. The metal magnet spirit grass grew extremely well. It was full of spiritual energy. Yiqing Luo wasn't courteous at all as she waved her hand and swept away all the gold magnetic spirit grass. Little girl, please. Azure Dragon looked at the young girl who was slowly arranging the magnetic gold spirit grass and suddenly spoke. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and looked at Azure Dragon. This form of address. It gave Yiqing Luo a feeling that she had instantly turned into a little Lolita. After all, Chi-Chi called her master. Although Qi Yan is arrogant and pampered from time to time calling her stupid human, ugly woman and so on, it is obvious that he still regards her as his master. The Azure Dragon and the two of them were all sacred beasts. It was the feeling of being called a little girl by the Azure Dragon. Moreover, the Azure Dragon's tone and gaze. It really looked like a senior looking at a junior. The disheveled Yiqing Luo coughed dryly. His gaze suddenly landed on Shiju who was rolling and playing on the Azure Dragon. She seemed to have thought of something and her heart calmed down. The expression on her face also became calm again. You seem to be in a hurry to leave this place. Is there something urgent? The Azure Dragon did not seem to notice the change in her emotions and asked directly. Chapter 33:21. Lover. Azure Dragon who was caught off guard and stuffed with a mouthful of dog food flashed past his eyes as a trace of longing flashed past his eyes. He glanced sideways as his peripheral vision shot a glance at Shiju who was hugging his dragon scale and playing with it happily. His eyes were filled with gentleness. If it's possible, can you stay here for another night? Can't bear to leave this place? Yiqing Luo smiled as she asked. Azure Dragon shook his head. For Shiju. Shiju? Yiqing Luo didn't understand. Azure Dragon's whiskers rose slightly as his gaze towards Shiju became more and more tender. I believe you should have guessed. My relationship with Shiju. No need to guess, it's very obvious. Yiqing Luo nodded. You contracted with me because of Shiju, right? Half and half. Azure Dragon gave a profound smile. From that pair of huge dragon eyes, Yiqing Luo couldn't tell what the dragon was thinking. She retracted her gaze and looked towards Shiju. That's right. Azure Dragon was Shiju's father. A leopard beast and a dragon. Gave birth to a leopard beast. No, it couldn't be said to be a leopard beast. After all, on Shiju's head there were already two horns which looked like dragon horns. Although as compared to the horns on Azure Dragon's head, it was much uglier. But after all, it was still two dragon horns. The child left behind by a dragon and a leopard. It was no wonder that back in the magic beast forest, even though Shiju's mother was the queen of that forest, Shiju was still ostracized by the other mirage beasts. Just because Shiju's body wasn't pure leopard beast blood. If those mirage beasts knew. In Shiju's body, not only was there leopard beast blood, there was also dragon clan blood. Those mirage beasts, would they crazily lick Shiju? After all, dragon was the most noble beast in the beast clan. Cough cough cough. She had one more question. Her little Shiju, was it a dragon or a leopard? Last Luo, can I invite you? Seeing Yiqing Luo not speaking for a long time, Azure Dragon opened his mouth to ask again. Yiqing Luo regained her senses. What do you want to do for Shiju? I don't know how long I've been sealed here for, but this place is filled with my presence. The Azure Dragon used its tail to gently roll up Shiju's small body. Sending Shiju into Yiqing Luo's arms, he continued. Shiju's body has my dragon clan's blood, and after it stepped into this forbidden grounds which sealed me, It activated the dragon clan's blood in its body. It glanced at the two black hard objects protruding from Shiju's head. As a result, Shiju grew dragon horns even before it was promoted to a mid-high rank mirage beast. This was indeed a dragon's horn. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand and carefully touched the hard object on Shiju's head. When this thing came out, Shiju almost smashed his own head. Through Azure Dragon's care, Shiju's head wound had long recovered. When Yiqing Luo touched it, her strength was very light with a hint of probing. He was afraid of hurting Shiju. However, Shiju didn't feel any pain. Instead, his eyes curved as he smiled. Your meaning is to make use of the sacred beast's presence which you left behind in the Forbidden Zone, to allow Shiju to advance and grow? Yiqing Luo instantly understood the meaning behind Azure Dragon's words. Right. Azure Dragon's eyes gradually surfaced a sliver of solemnity. But Shiju is after all still young. If it advances in this way, it might be dangerous. Moreover, we can only assist and help. The rest will depend on Shiju itself. Chapter 33-22. Although Shiju was still a cub, but after all it had its own consciousness. This kind of choice was naturally left to it to decide. If it wanted to maintain its current state, progressing step by step, she would also agree to it. Shiju raised its little head as its dark brown eyes sparkled with sparkling radiance, giving out a low sound. Its head rubbed against Yiqing Luo's palm. This was Shiju's answer. Yiqing Luo and Shiju signed the contract. Naturally, it could understand Shiju's words. As for the others, they were all little war pets, so naturally they could understand beast language. Shiju said, I want to become stronger. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly as her 5 fingers rubbed its little head. Why does Shiju want to become stronger? Shiju gave a low growl. Shiju replied, because mother said as long as I become strong enough, mother will meet me. Following that, it gave a low growl. Moreover, I want to be like the other companions, to be able to protect master, protect everyone. Yiqing Luo cupped its little head as she gently planted a kiss on its forehead. Since you've decided, then listen to your father's words. I will accompany you by the side. Shiju nodded its head vigorously. It wanted to stay by its master's side. He had to make himself stronger. It couldn't miss any chance to become stronger. The place which Azure Dragon chose was the cave which it was sealed in. Because here its remnant presence was the thickest. Moreover, it was the safest. Under Azure Dragon's help, Shiju had already started its dragon race's advancement ritual. Yiqing Luo sat by the side waiting. Unknowingly, more than half of the time had passed. The sky started to darken. A few little war pets had already nestled by Yiqing Luo's side, surrounding her in the middle as they fell asleep. Yiqing Luo rubbed the side to keep her warm, while Chi-Chi who had covered her with its furry tail. Her peripheral vision coincidentally saw Zhu Xian who was resting with his eyes closed. Even if he was resting with his eyes closed, his entire body was emitting a chilly aura. This man, just like his name, as though like a heartless person. But when facing her, his gentleness and change, she could feel it. From Zhu Xian's change to those words which he said previously, there was also wind chimes. Zhu Xian should already be very clear. The Yiqing Luo who had once given him his first warmth no longer existed. She was not the person he was looking for. But why he has no intention of giving up. Lass, don't tell me, you want to fall in love with someone else? Old Man Song's mocking voice suddenly rang in his mind. Hearing Old Man Song's voice, Yiqing Luo's eyelashes trembled. Then he pressed his hand on his wrist and closed his eyes. His divine sense entered the azure dew bracelet. She didn't notice. In the instant that her divine sense entered the azure dew bracelet, the man who was resting with his eyes closed slowly opened his ice-cold eyes. His vision was fixed on Yiqing Luo. In this dark cave, the dim light in his eyes flickered, but it was not real. Within the azure dew bracelet, Yiqing Luo's divine sense had just appeared in the azure dew bracelet when it pounced towards Old Man Song's direction. Old Man Song, I miss you so much. Yiqing Luo hugged Old Man Song's spiritual body. Although she couldn't feel his temperature, but to be able to see him appearing in the azure dew bracelet, she felt satisfied. Chapter 33-23. In front of her elders, Yiqing Luo rarely revealed a little girl's coquettish pout. She stuck out her tongue and smiled at the old man. I was wrong, I won't do it again. She was smiling. Her voice was full of laughter. Her eyes were a little red. It wasn't hard to hear. Her tone was serious as the oath. If it happens again, even if the great Luo Immortal comes, I'm afraid I won't be able to stay by your side anymore. Old Man Song smiled lightly, raised his hand and placed it on Yiqing Luo's head. But this time it can be considered as a blessing in disguise. Yiqing Luo was still muttering, "Blessing in disguise," these 4 words. Suddenly she felt a warm and comforting palm covering her head. The temperature of that palm made Yiqing Luo startled. Immediately she raised her head and looked at Old Man Song with joy. "Old Man Song, you, temperature." She could feel the temperature from Old Man Song's body. And she could clearly feel the strength of Old Man Song's palm. This was a real body. You didn't sense wrongly, now I can already transform into a real body. Old Man Song embraced her delicate body and pulled her into his embrace. It wasn't like before when she threw herself at Old Man Song, that kind of air without any substance. But it was real, being embraced by Old Man Song into his not considered thick but extremely safe embrace. She could even smell the pure and clean aura on Old Man Song's body that was like pure white snow. In this period of time, because of the evolution of the Azure Dew bracelet, I've sunk into a deep slumber. Old Man Song smiled and stroked her head. Originally, I still had to sleep for a period of time, but it just so happened that because you and the Azure Dragon signed a contract, the Azure Dragon's dragon breath and formidable strength woke me up. Yiqing Luo pulled away from Old Man Song and circled around him several times. Now you really have a real body. It was no longer a spiritual form. It was no longer a feeling of wanting to touch but the feeling of touching air. It was a real body. A real body that could be touched. Yiqing Luo held Old Man Song's hand and was excited for a while. After she calmed down, she pulled Old Man Song and sat on a stone bench at the side. What the hell is going on? What Azure Dew bracelet evolving? Also, why are you asleep? Artifact spirits were similar to battle pets. They were all leveling up by sleeping. She had always believed that Old Man Song had disappeared into the Azure Dew bracelet. Unexpectedly, Old Man Song had always been in a state of deep sleep during this period of time. Generally speaking, as the artifact spirit of the Azure Dew bracelet, there was a precondition for it to fall into a deep sleep. Last time it was because she had passed the 3rd floor of the Purgatory Tower. This time, why did Old Man Song fall into a deep sleep? I'm not too sure about the specifics either. Old Man Song cupped his chin and recalled what had happened before Chin fell asleep. At that time, you wanted to forcefully undo the contract with the Azure Dew bracelet. I naturally couldn't allow you to act so recklessly. However, just as this old man was about to stop you, I suddenly felt an extremely powerful force. That power was very warm and it was so strong that it could directly suppress the power of you forcefully breaking the contract and resisting me. At that time, this old man seemed to have heard someone say something in my ear. After that, when this old man opened my eyes, it was the time when you contracted the Azure Dragon. Powerful force. Chapter 33:24. And what did that person say to Old Man Song? Who could that person be? The person who appeared at that time and prevented her from breaking the contract with the Azure Dew bracelet. Which also meant that that person knew that she had the Azure Dew bracelet. Would he help her? But from Old Man Song's description and the fact that Old Man Song had returned to her side and condensed a physical body. For that mysterious person. He was still grateful. Luckily there was that mysterious person. She did stupid things that didn't succeed. Old Man Song still stayed by her side. No matter what that mysterious person's purpose was. She was very grateful to that mysterious person. If there's a chance, I must thank that mysterious person in person for letting you come back. Yiqing Luo raised a big smile and once again stretched out her hands and hugged Old Man Song. He truly felt the warmth of Old Man Song. It made her feel like she was dreaming. There will be a chance. At that time, although my consciousness was already very fuzzy, but I can be sure that that mysterious person must be waiting for you. Old Man Song chuckled as he caressed Yiqing Luo's head. She nested in the Azure Dew bracelet for a while. Until Old Man Song sensed that someone was calling her from the outside. She then left the Azure Dew bracelet. Yiqing Luo's mood was very happy. Not only did Old Man Song return to her side, he could also condense a physical body. And he could also walk out of the Azure Dew bracelet with a physical body. Only, It was still the same as before. When he was a spirit body, he couldn't leave her within 100 steps. However, he could appear in a physical body. This was already a huge improvement. In the future, when she became stronger, she would definitely be able to reconstruct Old Man Song's physical body. When Yiqing Luo opened her eyes, she met with several furry little faces in front of her. There was even a faint smile at the corner of her mouth because of the joy. After seeing the few little friends in front of her, Yiqing Luo hugged Chi-Chi's little head. "What's wrong? Ugly woman, are you a pig? Sleeping so dead, no matter how I call you, you won't wake up." Qi Yan ridiculed. Yiqing Luo's other hand hooked Qi Yan's long neck and pressed its small body into her arms. Then she gently looked at Chi-Chi. "Did I sleep for a long time? What time is it?" "It's the time." Chi-Chi obediently rubbed against Yiqing Luo's palm. "If you continue to sleep, master, and that damn fatty's bet will be lost." Yiqing Luo immediately stood up. She had actually stayed in the Azure Dew bracelet for quite a few hours. She pressed her aching brows and glanced sideways at Shiju's direction. However, there was nothing there. Even the Azure Dragon was nowhere to be seen. Yiqing Luo was stunned. "Where's Shiju and Azure Dragon?" "Shiju it." Chi-Chi licked her lips hesitantly. "Qinglong it." This hemming and hawing look made Yiqing Luo's joyful mood suddenly sunk. "What's the matter? What happened to Shiju and Qinglong?" "Master, don't be anxious, Shiju is fine." Chi-Chi heard the urgency in Yiqing Luo's tone and hurriedly pacified her. "But how should I put it? Perhaps Shiju is the offspring of a leopard-type mirage beast and the sacred beast Azure Dragon. It's a little special." "What kind of special method?" After being comforted by Chi-Chi, Yiqing Luo heaved a sigh of relief as her curiosity was piqued. Chapter 33-25. Yiqing Luo raised her hand as she calmly pressed Qi Yan's head into her arms. After that, she looked smilingly at Chi-Chi. "Where are Shiju and Azure Dragon?" "Qi Yan." Mother ***, was this sacred beast being despised? Was this ugly woman targeting this sacred beast? Yiqing Luo ignored the rage in Qi Yan's heart as she followed behind Chi-Chi as they walked out of the cave. When she passed by Zhu Wuxia, her footsteps paused slightly as she glanced sideways at him. Her vision swiftly swept past his face. His complexion was no longer as pale as yesterday. His thin lips also had some color of blood. It showed that the injuries in his body should have almost recovered. She was assured, "You rest here for a while, I'll go take a look at Shiju and we'll leave this place later." "Leave this place?" Zhu Wuxia muttered these 4 words as his lowered eyelids flashed past a chilly intent. Yiqing Luo didn't hear his murmur clearly as her slender brows rose slightly as she gave out a puzzled syllable. He suddenly raised his head. That pair of deep and cold eyes stared straight into hers. His eyes overflowed with seriousness, making her unable to shift her gaze away momentarily. His cold thin lips moved slightly. "He's waiting for you outside?" That he was referring to Zhou Xian. Yiqing Luo was stunned as her gaze turned serious and firm as she nodded. "Yes." Zhu Wuxian's thin lips pursed tightly. His vision was still fixed on her. After a long time, his eyes drooped as his head also lowered. Between the two of them there was silence. Especially that man with his head drooped, as though he was shrouded in a haze. That feeling made Yiqing Luo frown tightly. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something. But she didn't know what to say. The more she said, it would only give Zhu Wuxian some hope. In the end, she shut her mouth as she walked past him step by step. Her footsteps had no hesitation or pause. Because of that, she didn't discover it. Just as she walked to the entrance of the cave, that man with his head drooped down, slowly turned his head sideways. A pair of cold eyes stared at the back of the departing figure. His gaze, suddenly bright and suddenly dark, extremely treacherous. After walking out of the cave, the fresh scent of the forest greeted them. Yiqing Luo shook off the thoughts of Zhu Wuxian's earlier look from her mind. Since there was no way to give Chu Wuxin any emotional response, Chu Wuxin had no other choice. He had to widen the distance between them. Just as he was about to catch up with Chi-Chi and look for Shiju, suddenly the sky darkened. An enormous creature suddenly dashed in front of Yiqing Luo. That huge dragon head looked at Yiqing Luo anxiously. "Last Qing Luo, are you all right?" Yiqing Luo was stunned. "I'm fine, what's the matter?" The Azure Dragon moved closer to the dragon's head and looked at her body for a while. After confirming that she was indeed fine, he heaved a sigh of relief. It's good that you're fine. Just now I sensed an extremely strong dark energy here. I thought that it was the group of puppets from yesterday. Powerful darkness? She was here just now. Why didn't she feel anything? Now she was a profounder at the 4th rank of the Sky Profounder realm. His perception should have improved. Master. Suddenly, a black shadow leaped down from the Azure Dragon's body. That voice was on par with Chi-Chi's voice. Chi-Chi's voice was hovering between a Lolita and a Shota, whereas Shiju's voice was a pure Shota. It was so adorable that Yiqing Luo's face turned red. Chapter 33-26. Qi Yan took the opportunity to get out of her grip, fluttered his wings and quickly escaped from Yiqing Luo. Shiju, you can speak now. Yiqing Luo was about to gently stroke Shiju's furry little head. But when he looked down he saw the little thing in his arms. Yiqing Luo was dumbfounded once again. In his bosom was a little black ball. It was indeed a little black ball. However, when he held it in his arms, the furry sensation had already turned into incomparably hard scales. That's right, scales. Can you imagine? A leopard with the appearance of a small leopard but covered in dragon scales. Not only that. Those 2 dragon horns on Shiju's head also revealed the embryonic form of dragon horns. Although it was still a pitch-black mass. But at least it had a shape. Yiqing Luo finally understood. Why was Chi-Chi so hesitant when she mentioned Shiju? After all, it was her little battle pet. Chi-Chi was still very clear about it. She preferred cute furry little things. It wasn't that Shiju wasn't cute now. Instead, this appearance was really a little strange. Mistress. Shiju tilted its head and its bright brown eyes were filled with grievance as it looked at Yiqing Luo's startled expression. Mistress doesn't like me anymore? Yiqing Luo hugged it tightly. Cough, how could I not like Shiju? I'm just a little shocked. Shiju's eyes suddenly lit up. Rubbing her little head against Yiqing Luo's bosom. I knew Master wouldn't hate me. Big Brother Scarlet Flame only knows how to scare me. Saying that, it raised its head and stared at Yiqing Luo seriously. Master, I'm only in the evolution stage now. When I'm through the evolution phase I'll return to my furry self. Yiqing Luo tapped its little forehead. No matter what Shiju turns into, I like it. However, she raised her eyes and looked at the Azure Dragon with some astonishment. Because of the difference in race, the way Shiju evolves is also different. Generally speaking, like Chi-Chi and Qi Yan. If they wanted to evolve, they would do so in a deep sleep. Why was it Shiju's turn? It was just that its outer appearance had the symbol of the dragon clan. The Azure Dragon looked at Shiju lovingly. It should be because the dragon race is different from the leopard race. That loving look made Yiqing Luo unable to bear it as she hugged Shiju in her arms. He could tell. Azure Dragon truly loved his son. Suddenly she thought of something. Are you going to the magical beast forest to look for Shiju's mother? The emotions in Azure Dragon's eyes fluctuated greatly. But soon everything returned to normal. Its dragon whiskers drooped and the light in the depths of its eyes dimmed a little. For now I won't go, but